So as we fast forward through waiting for me to write all this out, I will now go through and show you how the configuration works and all of the changes that we had to make in order to just get this basic service up and running. So to start with, right, we run the Docker Compose up, and it ran our migrations, and we have a service now up and running on port 8080. If we go and take a look at that, you will see it defaults obviously to the URL not found because we don't have a root URL. If you go to docs, you should then be able to see the short URL service, and this is just a really basic model that we put together for a shortener. And so basically, if we go back here to Atom, I'll take you. So these are the last changes we made with adding Buildly, just to fix a couple of these things that are legacy stuff that's still left over in the service wizard. And then a model, really basic model. Another thing you'll notice is I do not like the line breaks in models. I like to be able to see the actual fields here and then be able, I don't mind scrolling just a little bit to see the end of that. This is the only place where I try to make an exception and ask other developers to make an exception, is to not add in line breaks here because it makes it easier to read models, especially when you get bigger models. Short model like this is probably not a big deal, but the larger the model is, the more complex, the easier you want it to be to find those things. So this is really basic model for a URL service, original URL unique ID, an account, that's all. Then we add for the views, a couple of things here. I've marked as special, so that the rest of this comes by default, basically, except for the view set. But these are things that we need to add in. Django filters, if you want to be able to filter your results, your filter fields. Obviously, you need to import the models. In the serializer, the CSRF exempt decorator so that you can get around the cross-site scripting between core and here. The method decorator for from the util, and then the API view. And then our model we import twice because we were using it down here as well for our redirect. So, but this is just a basic view set for a Django REST framework. This is the decorator for exempt, and the dispatch, and then the list view. A couple of just basic queries to run through there, filter fields, and the filter backend, the overall query set, and the serializer class. And the serializer class comes from the serializer here. Again, just very simple, basic, all the fields from the model URL. We're hiding the UUID, and that's it. And then the URLs, and this is where you want a little bit of an attention here is the you want to obviously import the view, and the OpenAPI stuff should all be configured ahead of time. But you also want to add the router for if you're doing view sets or class-based views from the Django REST framework. So here we've just added that to the router, and then also added the router to the URL pattern so that it can be discovered. And that will allow the Swagger document to see it as well, and that's why we're here. And now we can see our shortener here in action, and we can actually go through and see the documentation as it was added, and the different configurations for it. It's pretty straightforward though. And then post, get, put, patch, and delete. So that's pretty much it for setting up the Swagger doc. The next thing we'll do, obviously, is we'll need to then go to GitHub and go to MediaMash. This is where we're going to store this. And I'll create a new repository just for fun, and then we'll delete this later. Short URL. This is for testing. Can make it private. Add a get ignore. Add a README file. Template I usually just use is Python. And then we don't need a license, so we'll create that repository. So now we'll have a repo to commit to. We'll then go back here. We'll kill this again. So now we have the service that is running through Docker Compose. It's done, and what we will do then is we will, now that we have that there, we'll go back up a directory, and this is just my shortcut way of doing this, is I will move this to short URL old, move short URL to, and then I will do a git clone, this is media mash / short URL.git. We'll clone that here. And then in LF, you can see we've got that there, and we can just then do move short URL star old into short URL. And then for good measure, we do a star. Okay. And then we'll check the short URL old. Nothing there. Back to short URL. And we'll do a git status to add all of the files. Git commit. We'll init the repository. Git push. And there we go. So now we should be able to see over here our initial commit with all of our new code, and I've got a brand new repo here. The only thing we are missing right now is the Travis CI configuration file. I'm not sure why we didn't get that included when we did ask for that support, but we didn't. So what we'll do is we will just copy that from another location here. So here we have the micro shipment, or the shipment service from Transparent Path, and I can copy their git ignore or Travis, copy the Travis for now, and paste that in over here. And now we have Travis set up and configured. We will change the repo to be media mash short URL. And that is pretty much it. We have also a deploy.aws script that does not come with this as well. It has a default set of scripts, so we will copy that from here as well. And that is just specific to our configuration for AWS. And I'll just create a new script here, actually. Copy this script. Paste it in, and we've got, so this is our, we have to log into the Docker container for the ECR. We have to then tag it. And again, we're going to have this be media mash, and we're going to call this the short URL. Is that what we're calling it? Service. Normally I would put service here. And I don't think that the capitalization matters here, but And there. So now, and we're also going to be in US East 2. So that will then push us to the right registry, tag it, and push the actual service there. And then we will do a git add git commit, and we will add Travis. And then what we'll do is we will go and check out first to make sure that the commit went through. There it is. We'll go to travisci.com, and we will have to look here for, you can see we've got our previous builds and our repositories. There it is, started, short URL, and hopefully we will see it running and the build running here. It should pass. The last piece, though, will be that the Docker registry has not been configured because we haven't created that entry yet. So we'll just babysit this for a little bit to make sure that it's going to pass its build. And then we will go and check on the Docker registry. Or maybe we'll do that now because I'm bored. Okay. Go in, check on our Docker registry. Log in. And we need to look for the, I think it's the ECR is what it's called. Yeah, Elastic Container Registry. And oh, we're in the Oregon. We need to move to US. These are all the Media Mash ones. Oh, they're both, that's right, they're both in US West too. Okay. So now we need to create a new one called Media Mash, and no, come on. Media Mash slash short, what do we call it? Short URL service. I used underscores. I'm not sure that will. Sometimes underscores and dashes work both ways, and sometimes they don't. And we'll go with that. Create the repository, and now we have the short URL service here, which will not have an image, unlike here where you can see we've got previous. These haven't been tagged, but we should add version tags into each one of those eventually, and then Conference UI, the latest, and this is where we'll always be pulling from. And dev is we'll pull from there. You can see that Media Mash short did not pass now. We can go back and see that deploy exited with 0, so we weren't able to do, unable to locate credentials. So so the other piece we're missing is the configuration on this. There's also no short URL service. So we have to add in our configuration. So every time we create one of these, we have to add in the repository our environment variables. And that is for the Docker login. So I'll do that, and we'll come back and we'll run the test again. So I'll stop here, and we can come back and finish the rest of this later.